Podcast. Today is a big deal. We're talking about I'm NIXILIS. I am Menace, one of your hosts, and I'm here with Flash.
Yep.
What is going on, dude?
Nothing.
Do you know what's going on?
Getting ready to talk about Dr. Pepper or whatever.
Woo! Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I actually did something today. You should, I texted you earlier. I was like, hey, keep me like extra 30 minutes or whatever just to let the coffee hit me. I'm feeling it now. I don't know what happened the last like minute or two, but I am like zipping. I also did something different. Have you ever had seltzer water in your coffee before?
No, that's deranged behavior.
Like there's some espresso drinks that like when you put seltzer water in, it like enhances like the flavor of the coffee. So I was thinking, man, it must just be the carbonation that does it. So I put Dr. Pepper in my coffee this morning. Yeah, maybe that's it. I am beyond the limitless pill right now. Holy crap. This is the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper, the MoxStars podcast, if you're nasty. Welcome to the show, everybody. If you'd like to support us, you can find us on YouTube, where we have 299 subscribers. Who is going to be the 300th one?
Don't we have like a special prize for number 300? Like, can I announce it?
Whatever your prize is,
Yeah, so our 300th subscriber gets, and this is exclusive to this tier, the 300th subscriber tier, gets a shout out on the podcast.
Woo! You got it. 300 subscriber, you will get a shout out.
Not in the other shout out section, in its own section. Correct.
Make sure you, I will keep tabs on who it is and make sure we shout you out. You can also find us on all major podcasting platforms, where you can leave us a 5-star review to make us look super duper cool. And you can also find us on Patreon, where you can become an official Pepperhead. For $3 a month, you can become an official Pepperhead, support the show, get a free entry into each of our bi-weekly giveaways, which we will be sorting out at the end of this episode. You can also become a cherry vanilla Pepperhead, like Will Rule, K Mr. K, UWP Quirt, Demon82, Tommy Cypher, Jacob Hibbard, The Boogie Ghost, Poolboy Barry, Draw for Turn, and KB. Thank you all for your support. You get 2 free entries into each of our bi-weekly giveaways if you become a cherry vanilla Pepperhead. We also have Ravenlift hanging out in the MoxStars Dr. Pepper Lounge. I heard that Vin Diesel was there this week.
At the Dr. Pepper Lounge?
Yeah. So the reason that we didn't hear anything back about the Iron Giant was because that no one could understand him. So Vin Diesel was there because he, you know how he voiced the Iron Giant? It turns out that he was the Iron Giant's translator throughout the entire like filming process. So
I actually thought that the Iron Giant voices Vin Diesel.
Does that explain the metal raspiness behind his voice?
I think it does.
Yeah, the clang of gears whirring in his mouth. All right, yeah. Ravenlift, 10 entries into each of our bi-weekly giveaways. Thank you so much to everybody for your support. It means so much to us. It really does fill our cup. Today
with Dr. Pepper.
With mucho Dr. P.
Because we're the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering, Dr. Pepper, and ears whirring in your mouth.
Yeah. And Don Cheadle, LeBron's fake family. And all of these things that we just mentioned, how to support the show, how to do all these things, that goes into the algorithm, our praise the algorithm, who takes the form of Cheadle of Dawn, and we praise thee. The calculations help support the algorithm. We have some exciting things that happened on the show.
That is just an absolute pile of gibberish if you haven't listened to at least 30 episodes of this podcast. And seen Space Jam 2.
Yeah. This is okay. This is something I wanted to bring up.
Those are the prereqs.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much of our show had like roots into Space Jam, but it absolutely does, because
not even Space Jam 2.
Well, hear me out on this one. When we were coming up with the name for this show, right? I remember we tested a few things and we couldn't really decide on like, and then we fell on this. But when I pitched it, I was like, yeah, the MoxStars, the mentality, the image that I had in my brain was the moment the MonStars in Space Jam like bust through the door, punt the basketball, like kick Elmer Fudd out of the way. Like that was the energy that we were bringing to the table. So that was why I suggested the name. Does that make sense?
I'm not familiar with that film, but I'm sure maybe I can watch some YouTube clips or something, or maybe it's referenced in Space Jam 2. I guess I should just rewatch Space Jam 2 and
yeah.
Maybe I'll figure it out.
There might be a flashback scene. Yeah. Anyway.
Actually, infuriatingly, I do feel like Space Jam 2 doesn't even reference the first Space Jam.
No.
Like it is irrelevant.
Yeah. They're like, this happened once before with Michael Jordan. They don't even say that. They're like, no. They're like, this is a huge chance for us at WB to put every entity that we own into a single film. That is
it's
what
like
we're doing.
a secret lair super drop of Warner Brothers characters.
Absolutely. I just wonder when we get the Iron Giant secret lair drop. It's going to be huge. And then there's got to be a spell.
Iron Giant's just too busy voicing Vin Diesel right now.
It's the perfect option to have a sacrifice reprint. Like, it's called You Stay, I Go, and it's sacrifice. Boom. Boom. Print it, Wizards of the Coast. We're full of good ideas here. We know you're listening. You seem to make all the decisions that we predict. All right. We did have something happen this week. We're going to be... I was really surprised.
Hey, did we mention the tokens?
No. You are so good at reminding me when I miss these things.
Specifically about the tokens.
Yeah. We have tokens. And I have 2 new bundles of tokens right here on camera. So plenty available. Reach out to us on Discord if you'd like to get a set. They are on screen. 10 a set. And they're beautiful. Designed by Death Milk Designs, a buddy of ours who got into AI art in the pandemic and became, pretty well known. If you go on Instagram, he's got tens of thousands of subscribers. Or followers.
They're all bots. They're all AI bots.
Because he's an AI artist, right?
Yeah. Eli's a fraud.
He's great. He's really great. He does. He definitely like molds. He uses it as a tool and not as like a crutch. So he gets the general idea, and then he actually goes in and he touches things up and changes things to like reflect more of his style. So Death Milk Designs. Check him out on Instagram. Got some really crazy, horrendously beautiful stuff. Like some of it is like grotesque, some of it's just badass, like the stuff that we have here. Like we have a construct, a treasure, a snake, a thrall, and a copy token that are just go so hard. So check those out. Let us know. Join the Discord server. Let us know if you'd like a set. Anyway, this week we are talking about OB NIXILIS Captive Kingpin, one of the coolest decks on the scene right now. You would think that after the ban list that OB NIXILIS might have struggled a little bit, seeing as it lost Dockside and Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus, things that help push it forward and, just get off the ground a little bit quicker. But it didn't lose any of those key pieces that make it such a great deck. So, OB NIXILIS, if you're unfamiliar, is 2, a black and a red legendary creature demon. It's a 4/3 flying trample. Whenever one or more opponents each lose exactly 1 life, put a +1/+1 counter on OB NIXILIS Captive Kingpin. Exile the top card of your library until your next end step. You may play that card. Wah wah wee wah. I think a lot of people read this card and were like, wow, this is really good. I remember the first weekend that after this was released, it was already topping. Like it was a very like glass cannon type deck because nobody had like figured out the balance yet. Like how effectively can I deal 1 damage? How like consistently, like fetch lands trigger this. So everyone plays fetches. So this must be pretty good, right? And then Cataract Parasite arrived. And then, like other things, Reckless Fireweaver. And then there are a few other decks that I've seen that have like Firebrand Archer as well. But the whole idea is this deck is full of ping effects, seeing as the name of one of the decks we're talking about, which got 3rd place at a tournament this past weekend, is called Obtua Ping on That Thang by Viper Tollbooth. Such a great name for this deck, but a lot of 1 life draining effects, 1 damage effects to face. Orcish Bowmasters is one of the best cards in this deck. It just goes, it gets pretty crazy. So
yeah, I'm glad that we finally found a shell where Orcish Bowmasters can like shine. I feel like it's a really overlooked card. So
it shines here. It's hard to get that effect to really mean anything, be substantial. But it's substantial here. And all joking aside, Orcish Bowmasters being one of the best cards in the format now that, Dockside is gone. It's just magnified here. So the goal...
Yeah, it's great. This is like looking at this is a deck that it had Dockside, but it doesn't care about Dockside. Is that right?
Right. The only thing that potentially could have, it makes Reckless Fireweaver like a little bit worse, but yeah, it didn't really care. It wasn't, maybe you were running Cloudstone Curio loops, but that was like a side hustle to the core of the deck, where now that distraction is gone, the deck can just hyper focus its thing, the thing that it wants to do. So, yeah, I would say that it didn't necessarily lean on it as much as other decks do for, like, combo potential. Like, I think for a long time, and this goes just beyond OB NIXILIS, but for a long time, if you were in red, you played Dockside, and then whatever complementary color you were in, even if you were just mono red, right, you played combo cards that went with Dockside just for the sheer, like the possible potential of running into the combo, like Dockside plus Ragavan and Cloudstone Curio is infinite mana, so I'm going to do that. That'll be in the deck. Like, it gave you purpose just to run cards that were outside of the shell of strategy that you were usually going for, like Emil, Dockside, infinite mana. Same with Temur Sabertooth. So now that Dockside's gone, we see decks sort of, I guess, focus in on their strategies, and it's no different with OB NIXILIS here. And this deck does actually run Firebrand Archer, so the purpose of this, and the reason that OB NIXILIS gets even better, is the line of text that says, until your next end step, you may play that card. So you can also play lands from this. You can, like, exile things on your opponent's turn. That's why Cataract Parasite is so great, because cards are going to, like, when they draw for turn, you get a card, and you get to hold on to that card in exile for the entire turn cycle until the end of your next end step. It is a line of text that is far stronger in practice than it is in writing, and I think that's really what pushes OB NIXILIS over the top. I've seen a few, and I've played against this. This is a deck that can absolutely have Christmas Land turn to potential just to explode and nuke the table with a Wheel of Fortune and Cataract Parasite, or now that the deck has a new toy from Duskmourn. Flash, have you read Razorkin Needlehead?
Have you read Sutter Kane? Razorkin Needlehead. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Seems like that triggers at least once a turn.
Yeah. So, a 2 red mana human assassin 2/2 that says it has first strike during your turn. That's probably irrelevant. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Razorkin Needlehead deals 1 damage to them. That triggers OB NIXILIS. Yes, it does. And it is not necessarily the same line of text as Cataract Parasite. Whenever an opponent draws a card, if you control a red permanent, you may have Cataract Parasite deal 1 damage to that player. So this requires OB NIXILIS to be on the field in order for you to, like, for the engine to be online. And Razorkin's just like, no, I just deal the damage however and whenever I want. The goal is to have one of these two on the battlefield and then trigger or like cast like a Wheel of Fortune. And this is it sounds like, oh, Menace, that's a scenario that'll never happen. That's crazy. No, it happens. Trust me, it happens. It's I've seen it. It hurt me. I can't. I just wanted to have a good game of Magic. I had a great opening hand, I promise. And it was just turn 1 Cataract into OB on turn 1, and then turn 2 they fired off a Wheel of Fortune and got 21 cards like in exile off of it. And then we all died that turn. It was painful. But back to strategy. This is a deck. It's good. It's a good deck. That's how you know. It makes me shiver. We have...
This is a spooky October episode of the MoxStars podcast.
I know.
Like, you're shivering. OB Nix is a demon. Magic the Gathering was designed by Richard Garfield in a pact with the devil. Just a lot of spooky October stuff happening. There's some, like, goblins in here. Those are, like, a thing, right? No, there's no goblins in here. Never mind.
Not anymore. This is the MoxStars podcast, the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper. Don Cheadle, please come on the show. All right. Walking Ballista.
Hold on. Big news. Simian Spirit Guide. Spirits. Spirits are spooky Halloween things.
Ooh-wee-oo.
Put it on the list. Add it to the list. Count it.
Just wait. Let me get a pen. I only have Sharpies. Is that okay?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's it's too much permanence. Okay. All right.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yep.
Cataract Parasite's a horror.
Hey. Spooky.
Hey. Spooky stuff. Ooh-wee.
Okay. Not only did we get a new toy from Duskmourn, we also got a new toy from Bloomborough. So this list is basically the shell of an experienced player, and you can tell that when you go look at other shells like that, or including some less focused things. But Coruscation Mage is finding a home here for good reason. It is 2 mana, 2/2 Otter Wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. So But it also has Offspring. So if you pay 4, you get 2, and that just means that you're getting additional card advantage on top of everything else. Modern Horizons 3 brings you Marionette Apprentice whenever another creature...
Hold on, I have a question about Coruscation Mage. Do you think people are paying the Offspring cost?
I do.
Does that ever come into play?
I do think they're paying it if it gets later into the game, for sure.
Okay,
like,
cool.
Yeah, if you land Burgie and you haven't won the game, or maybe you're trying to just generate some mid-range engine potential, I do think the Offspring becomes incredibly viable. Like, it's one of those things where, like, if you invest 4 mana, you get 2 cards for every non-creature spell instead of just 1 card if you spend 2. So early game, it comes down and it becomes this 1-card engine for however long it stays on the field. But then later in the game, it's like, oh no, I can now create an overwhelming advantage, 2 cards in 1 with the Offspring.
Yeah, I mean, Offspring, this is a side conversation, but like it just seems like one of those inset abilities or keywords that like you don't think about, but like it's going to pop up in Eternal formats occasionally, and there's going to be things that like break it, right?
Yeah, because it's not just a like on cast, it's an enter the battlefield effect. So if you paid the cost, when it enters the battlefield, boom, then you get the Offspring. So it's a weird niche window like thing like that I don't think we've like really seen yet, so Offspring is definitely a set mechanic from that one set that no one remembers that will have a few cards that you have to know what it does and know when to interact. Otherwise, you'll get lost in the fuzz. But I guess to double down on will people pay the Offspring cost, like Firebrand Archer is the same exact effect, on a worse body. It's whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So Coruscation Mage just has that upside and a bigger booty, so it doesn't just die to a Bowmaster. We also have...
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think the deck has only improved since Modern Horizons 3, since the banning. Like, the deck is only going to be more consistent, I feel like, because there aren't just the 5-color good stuff piles out there that are going to overwhelm this. Like, I think a lot of decks took a hit from the ban, and while this did lose Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, and Dockside that allowed it to have those like really crazy explosive moments, this is a deck that has become a far more consistent shell without those cards.
Yeah, I mean, also, for what it's worth, this deck is also playing every available ritual in black and red to begin with.
Yes.
And so those 3 cards really in this deck are just additional rituals, right? So it doesn't hurt you that much necessarily to lose that if you're replacing that with more of the effect that interacts with your commander and helps you win.
Yeah, dude, that's such a good point. Like, even if you are in 5-color good piles, there's a decent number of like 5-color piles that I've seen run Rite of Flame. Most of them, if not all of them, also run Dark Ritual. So like, and this one's on Pyretic Ritual, Seething Song, even
Pulling the Weak, Cabal Ritual. Like, let me actually look at the other list, because that one has some more obscure ones like Bubbling Muck. There was another one I wanted to shout out. Oh, Reign of Filth.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of too.
And a bunch of just like random token generators and things like that, where like this other list is playing Goldhound, I think, just for the mana ability, basically.
Yeah.
And a couple other like treasure producers.
Yeah, and it's a first strike menace that as a 1/1.
Oh, puts through 1/1, yeah.
Yeah. So it pretty much, it's not a guarantee that it's going to get through, but for the early game, it can be that mana on turn 2 or turn 3 to get you to OB NIXILIS that much sooner. But it's also just a great like attacker for the deck. I think that's the difference between the shell that I'm looking at right now versus the other one is they are not really prioritizing attackers at all. they're just prioritizing effects.
Yeah. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is the deck already plays a lot of rituals. It plays pretty much every available ritual.
Yeah. Which is where I don't think it suffers as much as those other decks. So, like, while I said that it got more consistent, it would technically be more consistent with those other cards because they generate mana and they allow you to get where you're going, blah, 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 blah. I say it in comparison to the other decks that took hits from the banning. Like, OB NIXILIS is still a very resilient deck in the current format. So, all of these effects, they all deal 1 damage. Kessig Flame Breather, same effect as Firebrand Archer, Coruscation Mage. Marionette Apprentice, whenever another creature or artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield that you controlled, each opponent loses a life. Sack a treasure. Boom. Another card. Bowmaster, 1 damage. Bergie is just a combo engine. Goes crazy. Fireweaver, artifact enters, deal damage. Needlehead. Party Thrasher from Modern Horizons 3. Non-creature spells you cast from exile have Convoke. And then at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may discard a card. If you do, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Now, I was curious how good this would be, but this deck is on 18 creatures. And this basically becomes a mana dork for, it's not a bad rate. And you're casting pretty much everything from exile anyway. So this is actually a pretty great card, and I can see why it just becomes this like great enabler for the deck. We have Dualcaster Mage, which I think everybody in red should be running now. Like, it's just too good to copy an ad nauseum, too good to copy a counterspell to keep your engine alive. I'm a big fan of the Dualcaster. We also have a new card from Modern Horizons 3 that I wasn't expecting. It's called Glaring Fleshraker. For 2 and a colorless, you get an Eldrazi Drone that's a 2/2. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, create an 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn that has sacrifices, add a colorless. Whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, Glaring Fleshraker deals 1 damage to each opponent. Wow.
Let me see. 1, 2, I think 19 triggers for that in this deck.
Yeah.
19 colorless spells cast. 8, because there's 20 artifacts, but one of them is red, one of them is black.
And 3 of them have color. Because Unstable Amulet, Wishclaw Talisman, and Bolas the Citadel.
Oh, yeah, I missed the Citadel.
Yeah, so you're at already 17 potential triggers. That's
plus Walking Ballista.
Yeah. That's a really great card here. The likelihood of hitting it is actually really high. Imperial Recruiter, Tutoring, Mayhem Devil, always good. Has never been bad. And then you have Prosper as well, which you are casting things from exile, you're playing them from exile. Prosper is always going to trigger, gives you an extra card at your end step. So if you can get there, it's like a Prosper itself is a commander that can be fringe in its own right. So having it just as something that instigates your strategy is like a huge ups for the deck. That's awesome. Yeah. Sorceries. I'm surprised they're not playing the new tutor from Duskmourn, where if you control a demon, you get to search for any card. But hey, what do I know? They're playing Gamble, Imperial Seal, Rite of Flame. There's probably just too many of those effects that are too good. Like Demonic Tutor, right? Just way better. Diabolic Intent. This is a deck that's on Grapeshot. I imagine because of Grinding Station and Underworld Breach, Grapeshot is one of your win conditions. And then Molten Duplication, Jeska's Will, Praetor's Grasp. I think now is actually a really great time in the format after the ban to be able to Praetor's Grasp and knock someone out of the game. Like that is Praetor's Grasp, I think, becomes cast it, kill an opponent. Like lines need to be pretty clear, and if the decks are well known and you know what is at the table, just rolling through someone's library and stealing their win condition, their solo single win condition, like Kiki Jiki or something like that, is essentially a player killer. So I really love Praetor's Grasp here. Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Misfortune, Yawgmoth's Will, Beseech the Mirror. I don't think I could justify a single cut here. This is just really well thought out. Jessica's Will still continues. That's like the worst card, but it does so much for this deck. So,
yeah, you want to play cards from exile. You want the ritual. It's good.
Yeah. Down in the instance, this is where things get hairy. Because I think this is where you start seeing the player's personality and how they want to interact with the table, how they value interaction and all these different things. So I really like from Duskmourn. It's a new card. Flash, have you considered Untimely Malfunction as a card that you would play in a deck?
Yes, it's a strict upgrade over a Braid, and when you're not playing like blue with access to counter spells, it's good to have the change the target of a spell or ability.
Yes. Yeah. It's that's exactly how I feel. I'm glad we're on the same page. Woo. High five. High five the camera like there's a camera watching you.
Done.
We're high fiving.
Completed. I have completed the task.
Nice. Remember, everybody, if we get to 1,000 subscribers, we're going to have a dueling piano setup, and you will get to see Flash's face. He'll be on camera. Only if we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, though. So
on YouTube. And we're merely 701 away.
Only 701 away. Indeed.
But the next subscriber, number 300, gets a special shout out on the podcast. So
the benefits.
That's an incentive.
The
next 700 people can get wrecked, but number 300, you get a special shout out.
You are our home improvement neighbor Wilson right now. Nobody knows what your face, what you look like, but you're that kind neighbor who always, reminds me about the tokens, has such great insight, like sage wisdom.
Hey, we're listening. You're listening to the MoxStars podcast, the #1 podcast on the internet for Dr. Pepper, Magic the Gathering, Don Cheadle, Space Jam 2, not Space Jam 1, and Naya Guy Gonna Do.
Naya Guy Gonna Do. And remember, if you drink 2 Dr. Peppers consecutively, it is the equivalent to the Limitless pill as written and published by the New England Journal of Medicine. Is that all the things we do? Willie, send us peeps. For the love of God, I'm
Willie,
still waiting on them. Don't know where they're at. Instance. Untimely Malfunction.
That's definitely what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about them this whole time.
We're here. Untimely Malfunction. It is, I think and feel similarly. It's hard to justify losing the damage, but it does. The interaction is hard to come by in red. So destroy target artifact, boom, relevant. It's going to be relevant. Change the target of target spell or ability with a single target. This is a deflecting swat. Right there, boom. And then, a little worse than deflecting swat, right? Because deflecting swat is just busted. And then 1 or 2 target creatures can't block this turn. I promise you that will be relevant at some point.
Yeah, if you want to get through one of your 1-power creatures to activate your commander's ability,
yeah,
you can do it this way.
It probably won't be relevant every game, that line of text. But if there's one thing that you've taught me, Flash, it's that you should read every line of text and treat them equally. You don't just put your blinders on and see a deflecting SWAT or destroy target artifact here. Like, no, there's a third effect that could potentially be relevant. So
listen, if you got to attack with your Imperial Recruiter, which has 1 power, and you need it to get through to deal 1 damage and activate OB Nix, now you're using 2 cards in ways that you didn't expect.
Yeah, that's exactly it though, right? It's the what gives you the card advantage that will put you over the top. And when you get into locked board states, sometimes that just seeing that 1 more card is enough. So great point. This deck, like we said, on all these rituals, Desperate Ritual, Pyretic Ritual, blah blah blah, Calling the Weak, Dark Ritual. We also have Fire Covenant as a form of removal, which I love. Fire Covenant is a 3 mana instant, 1 a black and a red is an additional cost. Pay X life, and then you can just divide X damage as you see fit amongst any number of target creatures. So you can't hit face, so you can't like trigger Ob Nix off of this. But damn, do I just want to like, I don't know, pay 20 life and just pick and choose what dies this turn, you know? So
yeah, I mean, neither of the decks that we're looking at are playing mass removal spells besides this.
Yeah.
Like there's no Toxic Deluge in either of these lists, no Blasphemous Act, no nothing. So.
Which is, to me, so strange that Toxic Deluge doesn't find a home, just because Ob Nix usually gets huge. You know, so I don't know, maybe the supporting cast around Ob NIXILIS is more important so that you're not willing to just like sacrifice. But, you know, it's like if you run into a Dranith, I would just rather pay the 3 life and watch my board go away than have my commander be turned off until I find the right card. But yeah, this deck has a hard time getting through Dranith. If you don't have the removal in hand, yeah, good luck. But that's probably why they're playing things like Rending Volley too. 4 damage to target white or blue creature, becoming more and more relevant. I see it all the time in like 2-color shells that include red. Final Fortune, extra turns are sweet. And then Saw in Half has me wondering what it is sawing in half, because dual caster mage, yeah, goes infinite with it. So is there? Oh, I guess.
And then there's also maybe value targets where maybe if you need an additional ping effect, you know.
Yeah, I guess it's true. Like, we did justify the offspring cost for like Coruscation Mage. It's basically just 3 mana offspring creature, right? Like, if you look at it that way, it just like splits something in half. So like you can
saw something in half.
You can indeed saw it in half. The Mayhem Devil, like becomes a really great target for that. So yeah, maybe it's just good enough for value. Ad Nauseam is here. Your life total doesn't matter with this deck like too much. So it's okay to bring it down real low if it means you're going to win the game. It runs Flare of Duplication. We are on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 red creatures. So there is a decent chance that you'll be able to cast that for free. And the interaction here is the interaction suite here, including Slaughter Pact, which I love. Such a good card. Is very tightly knit. Yeah, this is a great package. End of sentence. A great package. Artifacts. We talked about them a little bit before. There are a few here that instigate the strategy a little bit more than the others. Obviously, Grinding Station and Underworld Breach are here as a side combo, but they just they help like spurn the deck forward, like regardless of whether or not they're in tandem or not. So like I think they're good solo on their own, but they do combo off, allow you to see your entire library and win the game with Grape Shot. So Unstable Amulet is really the one that I wanted to talk about the most. I had this card in my really, really shitty pre-release box from Modern Horizons 3. And I built an energy deck. And this thing won me the game. Like the one game that I won, this is the thing that did it. When it enters, you get 2 energy. It's 1 in a red. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Unstable Amulet deals 1 damage to each opponent. Yeah, this is really good in this deck. And then you can tap it, pay the 2 energy that you were given, exile the top card of your library. You may play it until you exile another card with Unstable Amulet. In the deck that I had built, I had a ton of energy, so I was able to like keep using this as an engine for card advantage. But this in OB NIXILIS, it just is insane. Like every time you cast a spell, it replaces itself. So like I don't know how to like say it better than that. It is the engine that, like look how many pieces are part of the engine.
I just feel like Wizards printed OB Nix and then coincidentally printed a bunch of cards that are just absolutely perfect for this specific strategy.
They're like, it's just 1 like, damage.
It's really good for this one commander that all this stuff is getting printed.
Yeah, and then they printed the corrected version of OB NIXILIS, and we're like, yeah, Valgavoth is a cool face commander, right? You guys are gonna play this, right? It's like, no, dummy. You gave us OB NIXILIS like a year ago. We're still on that. So, like, it's just so good. Like, this isn't a deck that, like, it has side combos and stuff like that with Underworld Breach, but more than anything that you need to understand about OB NIXILIS is that it is an incredibly powerful card engine, and that is why it is in the zone. That is why this deck is good. So look at all these enablers. Everything that you do in the deck ties itself to itself, and then, or ties itself to each other, and then triggers, pings the opponents, and then you're looking at, like if it snowballs out of control, every game action you take will get you a card. That is what we're talking about here. So, like, OB NIXILIS, it's just really, really insane. So, there's combos in it that, like, this deck isn't even running. Like, OB NIXILIS itself goes infinite with all will be 1. It's a 5 mana enchantment that says whenever you put a counter on something, or whenever you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, it deals damage equal to the number of counters put on the creature to target opponent. And so counter, exile card, counter, or counter damage, 1 damage to an opponent, another counter, another damage, another counter, another damage, another counter, another damage. It creates this infinite loop. So that's not even here. The deck is just focusing entirely on card advantage, not like explosive combo potential. We also have Defense Grid. That is this deck's form of Grand Abolisher. We still have as much fast mana as possible in this. I think like Mox Opal is probably going to see an uptick in play, and artifacts will become more heavily played now that Dockside is gone, because like we were grading cards based on whether or not they passed the Dockside test. We don't have to do that anymore. We're going to see a lot more cards become playable now that Dockside's gone. And here, like, I don't blame, like, I would argue that you could be a little heavier on enchantments or even heavier on artifacts now that Dockside's gone. But the deck will sort that out. It did get third after all, so maybe it already is sorted. But Mana Vault, obviously seeing a huge price increase lately, as it does help you get to OB that much faster. Same. Well, and then another card from Modern Horizons 3, we have Vexing Bauble, which is, great to prevent interaction. But I think we're finding more and more that it's not necessarily a stacks piece to push you into the later parts of the game. It is a stacks piece that benefits turbo decks from having players who've tapped out interact with them. So cards like Mindbreak Trap can't hurt you. Force of Will, Force of Negation, Flare of Duplication, stuff like that. Agatha's Soul Cauldron, it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing. It is a combo engine with Walking Ballista, which is why it's in the deck. So exile the Walking Ballista or play it for 0, throw it in the graveyard, Agatha's Soul Cauldron, put the +1/+1 counter on Ob Nixilis. It gains the Walking Ballista ability, remove a counter, deal a damage. Ob Nixilis dealt 1 damage, put a counter on it. Makes sense, right? Like, it is a 2-card combo instead of just the 1-card combo like that All Be One offers. So, beautiful stuff, especially since Agatha's Soul Cauldron is also just really great graveyard interaction. Can just pluck a Lion's Eye Diamond out of the graveyard at the right moment. So, all the standard stuff, Wishclaw Talisman, Bolus of Citadels, obviously the top end for artifacts that just, like I said, life totals don't matter. If it helps you get there, it's awesome. Necropotence, Underworld Breach in the enchantments. And then lands, Mount Doom is probably the utility land in the deck. It deals 1 damage to each opponent, so you get to see another card, if you have the mana. Beautiful thing. And it's also technically a board wipe. Yeah, pretty good stuff. All right. This is the first list. It's sexy. It's really sexy. It is hard to take my eyes off of it, is how good it is and how sexy it is. So, second list, we're rolling in. Flash, you've had your eyes all over this one. Is there anything you're seeing here that's different from the first list that you like more or less?
No, I mean, it's got another recent card, Iridescent Vine Lasher, that has Offspring on it. Not as good as Coruscation Mage. Whenever a land you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to target opponent. It's an okay effect, but it is different from the other one. This deck is also playing Dragon Rage Channeler to look at cards, I guess.
Yeah, to surveil one.
Yeah. Not a ton of difference. This one has a little more of the high risk, high reward rituals like Reign of Filth and Bubbling Muck that we already mentioned. A larger enchantment package. This one's running All Will Be One and Chains of Mephistopheles and Mana Barbs and Necrodominance. And
yes.
Vortex.
Yes. No, I love obviously I love enchantments, so I love seeing some of this stuff. But yeah, Roiling Vortex becomes essentially a Cataract Parasite in a way, where it's just it deals 1 damage to each player, and then it's not. Cataract Parasite has a way higher ceiling. This is just guarantees you 1 card on each go around the table. And like we said, All Be One combos with Ob Nixilis, so it's something that if you're willing to pursue that, or if you're willing to just the thing is, it's a dead card if someone is punishing Ob Nixilis, right? Because it is well known that as soon as Ob Nixilis goes down,
remove on site commander.
Yes, yeah, okay,
that's
the problem here. Is if somebody enters a tournament with Ob Nixilis, the problem is that it has this reputation. It is kill on sight. Like, if you have the removal, now that certain decks are not essentially dead, people are just still figuring it out. But in the current atmosphere, Ob Nixilis is still very much a kill on sight commander. So if you are willing to take the risk of having this be dead in your hand because your opponents are punishing your card engine, which is OB NIXILIS, then that's the risk you're willing to take. But the other side is that you win the game if they don't have it. Or if someone else is threatening to win the game and the interaction is spent on them, if you're a little more patient, all will be one can win you the game. I will say I'm really interested in Mana Barbs. I really do love it here. That's disgusting. I hate Mana Barbs. I hate playing against Mana Barbs. It's like one of those guilty pleasures. When you're playing it, it's like you feel like a villain, you know, a real spooky guy. But as soon as it's played against you, I get pissed, man. It is hard for me to play the game. It is just, when Mana Barbs comes down, it is so distracting to me. Like Gerson Starn, another deck that like loves Mana Barbs because it does 3 damage instead of 1. Like, damn, it's nasty. Chains of Mephistopheles is definitely a different. Well, it's different here. It doesn't do anything like for you specifically. Like the first deck we talked about got 3rd. The second deck we're looking at right now got 10th, and I think you can already see like the gaps where they're definitely running some things that don't necessarily push the engine forward, that are sort of just really good stacked pieces or levels of interaction. You know, and that's one of them where I get you want to test it out, you want to see what it does now that, you know, you're not going to be punished for playing it, and Dockside doesn't, you know, it doesn't add to the Dockside count. But I really like Chains of Mephistopheles in things like Tayam, where if you were to draw additional cards, you're just feeding your own graveyard. It's not the worst thing in the world, and it just punishes other players for increasing their volume of card draw. You know, like it punishes the One Ring pretty heavily. That's one thing that I don't see in this list is the One Ring, and it's not even in the other list either.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the One Ring is just, this is the one deck, or it's you know, it doesn't provide additional card advantage versus what the deck already has. Yeah,
that's fair. It like OB NIXILIS is just the One Ring, but on a creature in the command zone, essentially for the deck. So I can see that. Last couple little changes. They're testing out Bolt Bend, which is a really great card. It's a 4 mana instant, but it costs 3 less. So you pay 1 red mana. Change the if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. Change the target of spell or ability with a single target. I've seen it work, and when it does, it's like Daze. I think that's very like Daze is played in a lot of like turbo ROCKSTARS shells, because if you play it at the right moment, it does save the game, or it does save your line. And I think that's exactly what we see here, is that the conditions have been met. This is going to come into play. You know, it's like the other player chose Flare of Duplication, right? In favor of this, because it has the potential to be free. I agree with that. And Bolt Bend, like I said, can have its moments. So maybe that player, this is what, like I said, where personality shines, I think, is in instance, because it tells you how the player wants to interact with the table. So you also see Wild Magic Surge, which is pretty great. A reduced cost Chaos Warp, essentially. And then a Tybalt's Trickery as well. So, yeah, you got to save the game somehow.
I would play Untimely Untimely Malfunction in that slot, probably, right?
Yeah. I mean, Untimely Malfunction.
For you, would you prefer Tybalt's Trickery in any situation?
Nah.
Unless you just need a hard counter.
I just don't. I would rather have something that pushes the card engine forward or like revs that engine a little bit versus like a hard counter. Now, the reason that Tybalt's Trickery was like busted or like was considered powerful in the first place was because it essentially in certain decks became a transmogrify. Like you could counter your own spell and then flip into like an Ugin. It doesn't have that upside here, like it did back in when it was a menace and constructed. So Tybalt's Trickery it's hard to find a home for it in CEDH, and I really don't. It's like that and a braid. Like you could swap out the untimely malfunction for a braid, but like I said, the 3 damage is hard to give up. Yeah. I think this person is still very much working on their list and will slot things in and out and figure it out. We also see Meltdown as like destroy each artifact with total casting cost X or less. It's a really great, it honestly is such a great like artifact wipe, like board wipe, but it might hurt you more than it helps at times. And then Feed the Swarm as well, where like now with Duskmourn, I feel like we have a better Feed the Swarm because I think it's an instant for 2 and a black instead. So that being said, OB NIXILIS, any final thoughts on it, Flash?
No. I do want to say besides Mount Doom, it's just the regular land package. Just nothing special going on. Yeah. Well, like Emergence Zone was in the other list, which I think. But for the most part, you're just playing it straight. Yeah. You're just. Yeah. Yeah. Urza Saga was also in both lists, but yeah, it's a really just like you're not messing with your lands. There are very few decks that do these days. Like, but yeah, I do see that in their sideboard they have Urabrask, which I wish, God, I wish they were playing it. I love this card so much, but it's like Burgy but deals damage. And then they also have Broodlord, Grinding Stations in the sideboard, Final Fortunes in the sideboard, Burnt Offerings in the sideboard. Like their Broodlord line is in the sideboard. Their Underworld Breach line is in the sideboard. There's also new Chthonian Nightmare lines that I've seen recently. Have you seen the? It's like a ritualist creature, but it's when it enters, it's 2 and a black. When it enters, it adds 3 black mana to your pool. It's a way to generate infinite black mana alongside Chthonian Nightmare. So Chthonian Nightmare is not totally dead. Like as a potential option for generating infinite mana. So I think it still has a place, even though it did drop off significantly with the loss of Dockside. There's still potential for it. All right. Yeah. This is the MoxStars podcast, the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper. 23 sweet, crisp flavors. God, I hope if you're listening to this, Dr. Pepper, you know how you make me. Is that too much? The correct amount.
Okay. Perfect. I still got to get me a toasted coconut Dr. P. Got to try that out. What was it? I saw, I'm a fiend for Dr. Pepper, so much so that I follow pretty much every Dr. Pepper account I can find on Instagram. And someone had created a fantasy flavor, and it was buttered cheesy grits Dr. Pepper. I'm not saying I wouldn't try it.
I mean,
your silence speaks volumes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you get that in the Dr. Pepper mix.
Every
delicate alchemy.
Yeah, you're right. But every Dr. Pepper flavor that I've tried so far is very uniquely Dr. Pepper still. So I don't know. How would you? All right. We have one thing to do on the show. If you guys have any feedback on OB NIXILIS, you've played it, you've had extensive experience with it, please let us know in the comments below or join the Discord server. We have a whole Rakdos CEDH channel that you can dabble in, come in, start the conversation about OB NIX. Let us know. Yeah. If there's any cards that are not in these lists that you think have more potential for this list, yeah, any of those things, please comment below, join the Discord server, start the conversation. Last thing.
Pepperheads are forming.
The Pepperheads are forming! I want to find a better way. All right, let's do it this way. Pepperheads, form up. Kind of like, yeah, you get
Form of a Dr. Pepper.
Dude, clink your Dr. P's together. Form of Dr. Pepper. All right. We're doing this week's giveaway. This week, we're doing an updated list of Xerus Writhing Storm as our giveaway prize. Proxied up for you. And we have the addition of KB, our newest Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead, in the wheel. And yeah, I'm super excited. I updated the list, and I was able to include more enchantments, which is huge. It's huge. But it also inspired a new deck list that I'm working on in secret that I will have at MagicCon Vegas. I'm just going to spoil it right now. Magus Lucia Kane feels like a very strong deck right now. From Warhammer.
I've heard the name. What does the card do?
It taps for 2 colorless mana, so it's a teamer commander that taps for 2 colorless mana, and it cares about X spells. So it doubles the value of X when you cast a spell using that mana or activating an ability with X in it. So it's pretty cool. It's like a really crazy engine that doesn't necessarily set off alarms until it's too late. So I'm really vibing with the deck right now. Anyway, it's our giveaway. Let's go ahead and shuffle it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And we're spinning. You know what? I really like this platform because it has Dr. Pepper ads from time to time. Ooh, who is it? It's Usable Object! John, congratulations on another prize won. I will be in contact and we'll get you that deck. Congratulations. Thank you for supporting the show, everybody. Thank you for participating. This, again, is the MoxStars podcast. We are the ROCKSTARs of Magic the Gathering, the naughty boys of cardboard, home of the mid-range mindset. Nah guy gonna do it. Willie send his peeps. Don Cheadle.
Shout out to Don Cheadle.
Yeah. Space Jam 2. And the home of whirring gears in our mouths. I didn't know that. I really thought that it was Vin Diesel who was the translator, not the other way around. That just
nope. No, I looked it up on the Internet Movie Database comment section.
What's that? What? Can you give me a link?
Sure. Yeah, it's on the dark web, but I'll send it along.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, send it along. I'll put it in the description below. This has been the MoxStars podcast. If you'd like to support us, you can find us on YouTube where you can like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more notifications. You can also find us on all major podcasting platforms where you can give us a 5-star review. Make us look super cool. I don't know why I'm doing it like this. Just the inspiration hit. We also have a Patreon. You can
the Dr. Pepper you put into your coffee is activating.
Pepper has form. Okay, you can become an official Pepperhead for $3 a month and Join our bi-weekly giveaways. You can also become a cherry vanilla pepperhead like Will Rule, K Mr. K, UWP Quirt, Demon82, Tommy Cypher, Jacob Hibbard, The Boogie Ghost, Poolboy Barry, Draw for Turn, and KB. Thank you guys, and thank you all for your support. Go on to Patreon. You can find we have a few different tiers available. We have by the way, update on the $23,000 tier. You can't charge more than $15,000 without a lawyer. You know, it requires some lawyer stuff to be able to charge that amount. So we're limited to in order to fit the 23 flavors of Dr. Pepper. The price has been reduced by 90%. You can subscribe to that tier for $2,300. So huge discount because we don't have a lawyer yet. But that is the legendary creature, the Surgeon Master General tier. Dr. Pepper. Yeah, become the legendary creature itself. And the original Pepperhead, the Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead, and Reven Lift is holding down the throne as our Cherry Pepper Vanilla Head. Lovely stuff. Thank you all for your support. Flash, are you ready to get the heck out of here?
I'm gone.
Oh.
I already left.
What?
I left. What? Why Flash has been dead for years. Who have you been recording this podcast with?
This is a recording. It's like that voicemail recording that like you call somebody and they're like, hello? Oh, yeah. You've reached the voicemail of this dude. I hate that. Have you been doing that to me this whole time? It's true.
Good one, Evan.
All right, we're out of here. Thank you so much for listening to the MoxStars podcast. Go enjoy yourself a crisp Dr. P, and we'll see you in Vegas. Have a good one. Bye.